All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I hope you've had an amazing day and welcome to the Polyhedra Show. So today's episode is called Building an Audience. This is a really cool one and definitely relevant in today's attention-driven economy. So we're going to be diving into the creator economy, AI, and what it really takes to earn attention and build trust in an algorithmic world. So joining us today are two heavy hitters who I'm very lucky to call my colleagues. We have Sam, Polyhedra's very own CMO and co-founder of PressPlay, the creator platform backed by none other than the GOAT himself, Steph Curry. And we have Noah Lee, who leads up partnerships at Polyhedra and founded Nuanced, a creator management firm working with top tier creators in live streaming and crypto. So today's all about what it takes and means to build for people behind and beyond the tech, and how Polyhedra's infrastructure plays a surprising role in this new era of verifiable content, proof-based engagement, and intelligent agents. So having said that, let's dive right in. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sam and Noah.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for the introduction, Tony. Yeah, it's great to be here, and thanks everyone for joining us.
Yeah, great to be here.
Right on. All right. Well, yeah, just a quick anecdote. I've known Tony, and Tony worked with me for the last 10 years now. So yeah, I love seeing him, introducing these shows, and yeah, I'm excited today. I know a lot of our shows are generally very technical and talk about kind of the nuts and bolts of how our technology is made. And, I think Noah and I will take an opportunity to talk more about, how to kind of build an audience, or our vision, both of our visions on building an audience. So introducing Noah, Noah was introduced by another collaborator of ours who's based in New York. Noah and I got on our first call. We had a bunch of mutual friends, but also very, very kind of, connected backgrounds in terms of what type of content mediums, and how our kind of vision about how we kind of put an audience together, over different using different techniques, especially in the kind of creator celebrity influencer space. So I'm introducing Noah Lee, based in the Bay Area. So Noah, man, welcome to the Polyhedra Show.
No, thanks for having me. It's always great to meet really great operators and people behind really great brands. Just being able to work with you and a couple of other folks over at Polyhedra, it's been quite a ride. Just a lot of the things that have just been developing, a lot of product roadmaps, sharing experiences, just, hoping that we can really create something new, but also very exciting for creators in general.
Hell yeah, man. And thanks to Noah. He's I'm in London, and Noah's in SF. So he's getting up and talking to you guys all at 6 a.m. So a big shout out to Noah. So Noah, could you just give a bit of a background on, your journey, where you were, and what you're up to now, alongside being our partnerships guy at Polyhedra?
Yeah, I got my start at a digital PR firm way back in 2012. Just, really learning the basics and fundamentals of digital media and social media growth. Really just everything from a traditional digital media marketing stack. Worked under some really great mentors and leaders in the digital space, working for clients like Toyota, Nintendo, a lot of really great big companies. I would say that role really helped me understand contextually where digital media, social media kind of played. I think at the time it was a very new space. I remember actually kind of gaming out with my sister before I had taken that job, just to see where I guess this new career for social media was gonna end up. And I think we at the time, just with the information that we had, kind of felt, oh, like a VP of social is probably the max that you can kind of cap out at, right? So took a huge bet, really just helped get another fundamental understanding and develop a skill set. And through that job, kind of understood a lot of how people were consuming digital media in general. A lot of that ended up being on YouTube. So I ended up working at a YouTube company called Maker Studios, working with the first generation of YouTube content creators, really big marquee names that I'd like to think are household brand names now, but also the pioneers of a lot of great, or rather, the industry, I guess, of what we know today as quote unquote the creator economy. So really just helping them and a network of talent understand themselves as a business, developing their brands, helping with platform optimizations, and developing really great social media feedback loops. And through that role, was really exposed to a lot of different verticals across fashion, fitness, gaming, you name it. And I ended up kind of seeing another trend happening over on the live streaming side. A lot of our gaming talent ended up dual casting a lot of their content on Twitch. That got me very interested in understanding, in looking at live streaming platforms. So I actually ended up at its biggest competitor at the time, called Azubu, and we had only focused on esports and gaming, while Twitch was kind of more general in touch points and industries that you were able to stream to. So through my work there, worked almost a year just helping build the brand on the social side, and eventually ended up at a media company, kind of leading up our network developing team. What I ended up doing there was helping a lot of digital influencers and celebrities monetize on social media, but also working on a lot of great digital properties that ended up scaling into multi-million followers. It was a really great opportunity to understand truly how communities operate, what types of content people consumed, and really just understanding different algorithms across different social platforms. And then further into that journey, I actually ended up back on the talent side, this time working with some of the top Twitch streamers that we know today. That agency eventually got absorbed by United Talent Agency. And before I would say that company was acquired, I actually ended up leaving. My CEO at the time actually introduced me to my next role, which is actually how I got into crypto. He introduced me to the co-founders of Kabam. They were starting a new cryptocurrency blockchain company called Forte, which now has a pretty big roster and suite of blockchain games and development tools. But they also spun out another crypto company called Rally. And that was one of the first BD partnership hires to kind of merge my network in the entertainment and media space to help creators understand blockchain and crypto. I'd like to believe we were one of the first companies to introduce creator tokens, but also just helping streamers and gamers understand and leveraging blockchain tech. Was at that role for close to 2.5 years before going back into founder mode, and really leading a company through the Techstars Accelerator and an esports media company. So it's my first executive experience, just building a company, going through the whole fundraising route, scaling companies, building teams. And ultimately, we grew our network of Twitch streamers to deliver about 1 billion impressions per month, which was really amazing and great to see across multiple types of creators and streamers. I was at a crossroads about a year into that role, and I guess this more or less takes me into the last 3.5 to 4 years. I ended up at Kraken, the crypto exchange. Initially, I was brought on to help build a new social app for an existing trading tool that we had called CryptoWatch. And my role there was to help us connect with some of the largest and greatest creators on CT on the trading side to help onboard them to our platform and to work with us. Eventually launched that product, and I switched over to the partnerships team, working with a lot of great partners, both in Web 2 and Web 3. Again, was there for almost 3.5 years before I was unfortunately part of the most recent round of layoffs. But at that juncture, I was also just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and kind of went back to my roots of talent management, worked a bit more so on the talent side directly, working with people in crypto. And one of our marquee creators is Thread Guy. I'd like to credit him just for him actually bringing me out of retirement on the talent management side, and working with him to kind of develop his brand, but also just see what the future looks like and holds in crypto. But yeah, I would say over the last decade and a half, that's kind of been my overarching journey, both in and out of crypto.
Well, thanks. Thanks so much thanks for the journey. And, I was just thinking about like where the industry is at now. And, it's such an interesting time, I think, where kind of rubber meets the road in terms of, mainstream awareness of crypto. Obviously now we're a decade more in to kind of, the real integrated fan economy. When I say fan economy, I mean, content driven commerce, streaming, social interactions. We're looking really at the, if you look at even brand metrics, since 2020 globally, the fastest growing brands, predominantly are all creator led, or at least very much creator influenced. So, it's very interesting, and why I've really enjoyed working with you to date and cooking with you is your background of having that real understanding of how to fundamentally build an audience, and then how do you then utilize that audience to plug into technology products. So I think what I'd like to ask now is, with the talent that you're managing now, what are some of the kind of initiatives that they're running, what their vision is, how do they see themselves working within particularly the crypto space?
Yeah, I think one of the major challenges with working with crypto talent is maybe there's a lack of uncertainty in terms of, working through the ebbs and flows of the actual industry, since it is heavily market based. But at the same time, I think a lot of it is empowering them to really look at themselves as marquee talent within their niche. Because I think the overarching path that I've kind of just laid out for them has been to cross over into Web 2 to become marquee talent themselves in those spaces. I think that's always been the dream for a lot of folks that are building an influence, but also an audience, simply because I'd like to think crypto in itself is still very small when it comes to the nature of creator influence and content. I think a lot of native crypto folks are mostly whales in a small pond, but I think the ambitions for a lot of people to kind of cross over into Web 2 has always just been a natural path. So it's been very nice, at least, to kind of coach and walk them through the potentiality of what their brand could actually look like. I think at the end, the idea of being able to build their own sustainable revenue streams that live beyond just specific platforms that they've built audiences on is mostly the dream. So a lot of my time has just been spent helping outline what that could look like in a variety of different scenarios. And I think even within crypto, there's multiple verticals, right? Whether you have people that have started out their journey in the NFT side or the G-Gen side or DeFi side. I think there's just so many different pockets of industries where people sometimes struggle to find like their own identity and making applicable to effectively cross over. So I think it's one of the great challenges, but also it's fun being able to kind of chart that out and work very collaboratively with them across multiple industries. I think AI tends to be another industry that would be considered small, but also on the cusp of a large breakout, just given a lot of the tooling that's out there that could really affect how creators not just create their own content, but expand their brand.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah, I think it's such an interesting, just to follow on from your last point, I feel it's such an interesting time where you have obviously talent or creator content, and then the ability to scale that infinitely through AI. And then I think what people underestimate, even in the AI space, I mean, I'm talking to a lot of AI startups and infra on a daily basis, also, investors. One thing about crypto, it does actually provide liquidity. And as you said, working in markets can be stressful, but if done in sustainable fashions, it actually is a perfect space for creators to operate in, because yeah, it can, if you get something right and you build community and you manage that community well, there's infinite opportunity, not only for yourself as a creator, but for the community around you. And that's what actually got me so excited from the creator piece, with actually that crypto component. And yeah, I love how you talk about expand the audience kind of first, and then bring that back. What do you think the major barriers are currently for like mass adoption? Is it regulation? Is it user experience? What are you feeling, from obviously working with talent that are, generating billions of streams through to, millions of audiences across platforms? I know we saw a bit of it a couple of years ago with kind of the NFT boom, but what do you think is the barrier for that kind of, onboarding those, I know it's a cliche, but the next kind of billion users into the crypto ecosystem?
Yeah, I think a lot of people struggle with, especially in the crypto space, with kind of articulating the promises of a tech or an innovation in a very simple and easy to digest way. I think the space certainly suffers from a lot of technical jargon that probably turns off a lot of people. And really, I think for the lay person to understand, I would like to think basic concepts is still being worked on today. I mean, one of the talent that I'm working with recently just launched a new video series for herself, just trying to help identify a lot of the, I guess, basic concepts within the crypto space. Mainly, what is blockchain, right? What is cryptocurrency? Very, very simple subjects to kind of help people ingest in meaningful and bite-sized ways. So I think even though there's been a lot of great advancements and innovations in the space, I think we have a hard time being able to articulate those things very clearly. But I'm also very hopeful too. A lot of the times when I do speak with creators, we do talk about the idea and the overall concept of generative AI kind of being inserted into their toolkits. Creators in general, whatever industry or vertical they're in, they're first adopters of anything that helps amplify like their workflow. And that's mainly to minimize a lot of the friction to focus on the best, right? And it's creating. They don't want to think about a lot of the administrative functions that kind of go into building a brand or making content. They just want to focus on delivering the best thing that the audience wants to hear from them and see. So we've talked at length, just adding to their own arsenal things to affect like distribution, the actual act of content creation, but of course the administrative side, specifically in the vein of like legal or financial advice and branding to really just help minimize a lot of the touch points that they need to spend. So I know that's been very compelling, at least for people to try out things like AI agents or generators or prompts, right? Even for myself, just on a daily basis, running my own business, I'll consult a lot of different AI tools to kind of help me really be effective at my role. And I think to that same degree, creators will always try to find a way to just help amplify their own workflows.
Yeah. No, I love, I think when Eric connected us and we had that first kind of catch up, what I love about your approach and the people that you work with approach is that they're actually trying to build out content and brands. Like, I think to the listeners, when you guys are seeing like spamming posts from, KOLs on Twitter, most of those are paid, it's very inauthentic. Like crypto Twitter has become incredibly inauthentic in the sense of, there is moments where I think as a marketer, you need to spread visibility of things that you do. And that can be an interesting tactic. But, one of the things that Noah and I have been really working on, and we actually at Polyhedra have multiple announcements coming this next month. But, how do we actually use our brand and look at this incredible research and technology and product that some of the world's smartest people have developed? How do we take that, articulate why it's useful, and then actually have some really key partners? We launched yesterday a campaign with Siraj, who's actually joining the show next week with Tian Chen and Jiaheng, to go through he's already, incorporating, our core technology into product stacks, and he's distributing that on YouTube. He took the time to read the white paper, to actually understand the technology, to read the docs, to implement in his build. And it's just, they're the types of things why I love working with you, Noah, that we, I think we look at things the same. We see creators and influencers and celebrities as a very important tool and a very important collaboration point for brand building. But I think we both agree, and even from talking to the different folk on your side, like they want to do, they don't want to just be shilling stuff, like they were doing more diligence on me than I was them, you know what I mean? And that's how it should be, and that's my vision. I think that's what's going to create a tipping point as well. From what you saw is, if we can keep impressing and almost using Polyhedra as a vehicle to change of whenever we're producing talent-driven stuff, it's actually got consideration on both parts. It's like, why are we working with that talent, and why is that talent working with us, and what message are we spreading? And I think maybe you can have I think we'll have to jump to questions quite soon, but maybe to take it out, if you could just talk about some of like the content franchises that, some of your creators are kind of working on, and the process behind that from creation, and then how do you monetize those?
Yeah. So I would say like I'm very long on creators that mostly provide an educational, high quality and entertaining platform. In my opinion, that's actually what will drive a lot of onboarding to the masses. And that's simply from the fact that people and audiences really crave a source of truth. And that makes it that much more relatable. A lot of folks don't necessarily care about if you have the best tech. It mostly is truly dependent on, does it work for them? And is it easy for them to actually use? Do they understand it? So back to even what you were saying, I think there's also just been an intense lack of trust from a lot of the bad actors and folks that are looking to harm the space, but also just being very extractive. But in terms of how a lot of my creators are kind of looking at their own individual content calendars or workflows, it is entirely born on what the current meta is within the actual crypto space, but also genuinely what interests them. So recently, I would say back in January, ThreadGuy actually launched a new format called Dev Wars. It was mostly to understand and see who the top builders in the AI crypto space were, and bring them on all together onto the program, pitch us for 5 minutes about what their company does, and really just explore a lot of the great companies and people that we're actually building in the space. It's not necessarily to elevate, flashing Rolexes or, driving Lambos. Certainly not the frame of reference that I think we're all used to seeing, but at the same time, not something that we necessarily support. So I think being able to kind of bring that down to a level of, where the interesting builders are kind of concentrated on, but also where a lot of the interest just lies, I think, for the future. It's been very helpful, at least understanding his process of trying to highlight a lot of these individuals and companies, not just from an educational standpoint, but because this is what audiences actually crave. So I'd like to think a lot of how content, or at least how the sauce is made behind the scenes with a lot of these folks, is entirely driven by what the audience wants to see. And true to form, a lot of these individuals know exactly what their audience wants, just because they really do understand very keenly, just looking at their own analytics, conversation points, engagements, just to help build on that content. And really, at the end of the day, I'd like to think, great content helps filter a lot of the issues that I think we've had in this space. And I'd like to think creators at the intersection between tech and very compelling storytelling have a supreme advantage over anyone else that's building content.
Hell yeah, man. That's a great answer. And thank you so much for your insights there. Yeah, massive ThreadGuy fan myself, and I love the Dev Wars concept. And my last one, why did you decide to join us, crazy bunch? What was a guy as busy as you? I feel very lucky that you decided to, put some time into us, but maybe tell the audience why you decided. Well, I'm interested, actually. You can tell me, but you can also tell them why you decided to come on board with us.
Yeah, I think understanding a lot of the technical innovations the team has kind of delivered, being a larger player in this space, certainly adds to the pedigree and the team's ability to kind of ship products, but also just reach an industry that really is on a huge growth chart. I've just been doing research myself with a variety of different companies that are building natively in the space and tangentially too. But also just, being able to work with you, I think one of our first discussions just, it really touched me, just, how similar our backgrounds were, but also just being at a company that is at the forefront of building really great technology for folks to use. And I think for the industry to move forward, that was a really compelling decision, just based off of a lot of the products that are upcoming that I know we can't necessarily talk about on this program, but I've been super excited just to kind of understand how the team works, how they're looking at the future. And I think the focus of even integrating a lot of creators into that workflow has just been very interesting for me to kind of attach myself to. I've spoken with a lot of great companies and and projects. But I think to the degree that Polyhedra is looking to invest and work alongside creators, that really stuck with me. Just because, I mean, I think you know this as much as I do. A lot of companies just try to use or develop a relationship with creators to promote something, and not necessarily build with the creator mind. And that's been very helpful for me to see transparently that the company actually does care about these kinds of things, even though it is a subset of a subset within an industry. So that's just been, in my opinion, a blessing in disguise to work with people that understand not just creators' journeys, but what it takes to actually build brands.
No, man, that's awesome. No, I'm grateful. I'm grateful, brother. Yeah, no, it's been great to do this. We'll definitely have to do this again. Tony, do you want to come in and ask us some questions? Thanks.
Yeah, guys, how's it going? I'm back. I'm back.
He's
I
here.
was waiting in the wings. That
Right
was
on,
great,
man.
gentlemen. It's such a relevant conversation. Hey, like you know, and I love what you were saying. I loved your response just then as well, Noah. Like a lot of respect. Big reason why, you know, I joined the team as well. Obviously, always like looking to do something meaningful. And I think that what the guys have built, it has so much meaning and relevance for the future. And seeing like the strategy about bringing that to market made it like understanding how viable that was and how much that, you know, drive was needed and that the vision was there. It's a huge thing for me. But I did just want to say, you know, you guys were talking about trust, and it is such a huge thing in the creator economy, right? And there's so many through lines into what we do. Like the foundation of everything we do is trust, like trust in the math. But the creator economy and creators, they, beyond just the education piece, like there is a lot of trust there, and it's just, you know, it's important to be able to convey through those channels. Again, without the shilling, as you guys mentioned. So yeah, I love that, man. Obviously, I've been on both ends as well, working with you, Sam, in the celebrity-led commerce, and you know, I've been working with SMBs, you know, and seeing the huge effect that you know, creator economy has. So brilliant chat, man. I loved it. But let's jump into some questions, because I know the community is chopping at the bit. Might start with this one. So if you had to start from scratch today, what's one platform or strategy you'd use to build your audience?
Nice. Noah, I'll hand that to you.
Yeah, I would say, independent of platform or industry, the strategy that I would look to employ is just knowing where you eventually want to be. And I'd like to almost analogize it to how you build products, where you start with like a work back calendar, right? You kind of have the end goal in mind, and you kind of fill in the gaps and all these steps in between to get to that end state. And a lot of that I'd like to think is driven by consistency. So in terms of when creators are first starting out, or when people are just starting out their own company or brand or whatever it is, I'd like to think that compounds over time. A lot of people either tend to give up because they just don't think that, you know, specific strategy is working. But you know, I think in the nature of content, a lot of how platforms are created, in, I think, use cases are driven. It's by understanding how to leverage platform specific algorithms, especially on the social side. But I think in terms of the actual content, being able to compound on something that is very consistent, just it works. And sometimes, I've seen this a lot in the streaming space. Someone will be streaming for, you know, 3-4 years straight. And I'd like to think a part of that is very platform driven, but at the same time, a lot of the advice that I've kind of given people is you just always have to be experimenting, right? And I think you have to be unafraid of breaking things, just because I think if you're kind of stuck on the same formula, you're not really adapting to the needs of the market, needs of the content, needs of the platforms. So a lot of it should be spent kind of understanding every sequential thing in action that you're doing. So consistency and experimentation are, I would say, one of the base things that I kind of just reinforce with my network as well. Just because, again, if you're not breaking things, you're not growing. But that's not to say, be overly controversial. I think do it within the confines of, how you've realistically thought about your brand and where you want it to be.
Nice one, man. Yeah, no, I'm just going to jump in. I think, authenticity is key. I think authenticity in anything, regardless if you're being a creator or, want to be an entrepreneur in business, when I meet someone that I can tell is authentic, it definitely makes me want to spend more time with them or sync with them. And, backing up with Noah, I think, I don't think it's necessarily the platform. I think all platforms have kind of a different audience, and a big enough audience now that if you are consistent enough, and that's what I'm coming back to. I just generally think you need to be consistent and you need to be fearless, and you need to not worry about what other people think, and that's the hardest thing. That's the hardest thing about putting yourself out there and taking risk in life is that, it's not easy. It's even with the biggest guys, I've worked with the biggest guys in the world, and as many people love them, a lot of people hate them as well. So, and that's a double-edged sword. So, my three tips to, not just budding creators, but budding entrepreneurs and business people, you need to be authentic, fearless, and consistent.
Very cool and great advice, guys. I mean, it's it is like an attention-driven economy. Just to pull out some facts I have here. It's like from 2020 to to 2020. The US, the number of full-time digital creators surged from 200,000 in 2020 to 1.5 million in 2024. Wow. I think I remember seeing something that was like 1 in 4, or was it 1 in 4 Gen Z wants to become a content creator. So it is such a huge market, and it is ripe. And so all of this advice, and you guys have been leading from the front and in the trenches.
Be careful what you wish for, Gen Z.
Yeah. It's still a lot of work. Yeah, that's exactly right.
A whole lot of work, man. I mean, I got I'm really good friends with a guy called Jordan over here that runs, he works and runs the Sidemen's business, and they're one of the biggest creator groups in the world, man. And they're so busy, they have a whole warehouse space, several podcast studios. They're going from space to space all day. It's like, obviously the rewards are huge, but it's like, it's not I know I would see that with his talent. The guys that really want this and want to actually operating at the highest level, they're putting in the work. I think that's a massive misconception around the creator economy, to be honest, that you get to just shoot a couple of selfies and then out on yachts with Tony and a few bottles of champagne. It's not that easy. So yeah, I think that, sorry to jump back in, but I think it's very important to kind of give that message to people that are looking to start the journey, that be ready for a lot of hard work and grind, and remember, no one sees or cares about that part. They just want to see the results. So yeah, back to you, Tony.
Cool. Yeah. So Noah, you're saying stay consistent, and Sam saying be persistent. Definitely, obviously, authenticity as well to a few pillars that everybody's got to keep in mind. Yeah. Very, very cool, guys. I've got some funny. Just if people didn't even send through. Someone sent through asking us to talk about the video of someone restocking their fridge. That got more views than the Super Bowl halftime show. Do you guys know about this?
What were they stocking?
Apparently it was in 2022. I looked it up and I just did a quick Google. on a TikTok video of someone restocking their fridge. I'll have to look it up.
Can we bring it up?
I can't on the show yet, but I mean, I'm sure anyone can go and look for it. I'll have to figure out how to do that one. We might just jump into one more question. I know we're going to talk. We do have more shows coming up, diving deeper into like creator economy and the tech side. But I think this one is relevant. And it's saying, can ZK Tech be used to protect creator IP or verify that content was generated by a human?
Yeah, I mean the answer's yes.
Yeah,
it's still in its early stages. I actually have a show coming up on Wednesday with the CEO of Beat Oven, which is an AI text to royalty-free music platform, but they're operating ethically and paying royalties back to their training data, IP owners. So it's pretty interesting, and we've been having some in-depth conversations with our product team and their CTO about ZKML integration. And one of the most powerful things about ZKML, which is research that Jiaheng and Tian Chen have written and developed, is that it helps identify the data sets of where things come from. So there is going to be some type of tipping point with a lot of these video generation tools, music creation tools, and where those models and outputs are trained on. And we do generally, given my background in entertainment and content and the relationships that we actually have in LA and in the kind of entertainment and film and music industries, we definitely see that we have a product, that we are workshopping and looking at a product for ZKML technology that can actually act as a support kind of layer for creators in the age of AI. So, ZKML just isn't to protect consumers from models. It's also powerful enough to assist creators to make sure that their works aren't being used unfairly in the age of AI. And that was one of the big pieces and one of the big excitements alongside everything else we're doing. But I'll dive into that a lot more on Wednesday next week.
Yeah, and I think speaking a bit more to that too, from just like my personal lens, it's also part of the reason why I was so interested in working with the team here at Polyhedra, right? I think the nature of trust by provenance is probably one of the most contested and looked forward to thing in this space, at least at the intersection of crypto and AI. And I think when it comes to overall content creation, just being able to verify certain things, or rather not things, but specifically content, whether it's AI generated or not, I think in this day and age, it's become a little confusing, right? Just to truly understand if it has been sourced by the creator themselves or if it has been run through a program. And I think we're kind of already seeing that a lot, even with the political climate too. Just a lot of administration talk about, fake news, right? Or even deep fakes. So a lot of these things I think can benefit from having that verified source of truth. And I think we're kind of already seeing that with the company here kind of developing a lot of great technologies to understand that. But of course, I think the landscape as well, it's just the rise of AI being integrated into a lot of the ways that people are creating. You're just going to have a need to really truly verify specific pieces of content.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's super important, to what you guys were talking about with, like consistency, authenticity, I think it's absolutely fine to use AI as a tool, to help, but as you mentioned earlier, Noah, like help kind of build out and help you with like your workflows, even in video generation, whatever it is. But then to completely replace yourself, and it'd be nice. I want to see someone's putting in the work, and it is authentic, and I'm actually talking to a human in certain, listening to a human, as opposed to something that's just purely generated and not, you're not sure if you can really trust it. So yeah, it's super important, and there has been a huge kind of gap that has been growing. Obviously starting in Web3, and now as the deepfakes are getting more and more intense, and just looking at messing around with Sora and the peakers. I mean, they're such great tools, right? And they're so good for so many use cases. But I think we're not far off where you can completely replace yourself, which has its place as well. But yeah, it'll be good to know. So yeah, very, very cool, guys. Do you have time? I know you've got a very, very busy day, Sam. Do you have time for another question?
Yeah, I can do one more.
Cool. All right, let me find. Okay, here's a good one for all the budding creators that I'm sure are going to be watching this. What's if you guys were to point to a few creators? Obviously, we're going to say Thread guy, but like who are some of your guys' favorite creators right now that are doing innovative stuff? Be in Web3 or AI or even outside it, that maybe that you guys like or you think is really cool, or maybe some of our audience can look at and maybe take some tips from.
Yeah. I would say one creator that I'm especially excited about is Degen, someone that I've been working with a lot closer lately. But I think just her ability to kind of help understand and demystify a lot of the concepts in this space has just been really great to watch. I think the idea of storytelling and narrative building more or less is a lost art, I'd like to think. And I think, Tony, you had mentioned, this space is very attention driven, and that's very true. But I think when it comes to traditional creators that help us understand a lot of different things, concepts, really is driven from, good storytelling. So I think people that have the ability to compact a narrative in a very digestible way, it's a skill and it's an art. And I don't necessarily think a lot of people really have that fundamental kind of built into the way that they're not just building their own brand, but being able to articulate very specific things to an audience. So I'm most excited at least to see her growth trajectory. She's building a lot of different great programming and series just to help onboard as many people as she can in her own style and way. And it kind of reminds me a lot of, I guess, when directors and movies are kind of shot in a very specific style. And I think just to see that develop over time with her has just been very rewarding to watch, at least just to be a part of that journey.
Very cool.
All right, and on mine, I'm going in a bit of a different direction. I mean, I love Speed. Like he was just in China when we were there. He was going to like Chengdu and eating local food, and when we were in China, he just flooded every social media platform. Like everybody was talking about him, and just he's authentic, and he did a bunch of brand deals when he was out there. One of them was driving a DHG, I think the brand, the Chinese electric car brand, driving a car through water, and it just went viral. But everyone thought that's like a cool activation. But it was just, it was a brand deal, and and then you see him on with Kevin Durant, and it's just like, again, that's someone that's just, an everyday kid that's just kind of put himself out there and, and become an absolute megastar. And, obviously I've got an affiliation with emerging markets, so I love seeing him out in China. And then the second one is, I just love how Anthony Edwards, he's an NBA, obviously he's one of the rising stars, or if not the you know, the new face of the NBA fundamentally. You know, but again, he's just so authentic, you know, like after they knocked out the Lakers the other night, like he's walking through LA, like live streaming on TikTok, just like, you know, just like causing shit with the Lakers fans and, you know, posting, you know, he posted a photo of like someone with an Anthony, with a LeBron jersey, you know, at the NBA store, you know, going through Anthony Edwards jerseys, and like he's got this, like, he obviously brings it on the court, but he's got such a raw engaging personality. He cuts through so well. And I think you're just seeing that. I think the big thing that's happening now is that kids that have grown up with, like, in the complete digital economy like him, I think he's 22 or 23, right? You know, and he's also obviously incredibly talented at what he does, you know, one of the best in the world at it. But, you know, having that ability to be so amazing at what you do, but also just that personality, and that's a lightning rod moment. You know, you look at Conor McGregor or, you know, there's very few people that are just incredible at what they do, but also have that, you know, that personality. So yeah, in terms of monitoring, I guess more so the mainstream business side about how people are doing it, just to give a different flavor of more so than what we're doing at Polyhedra. Those two guys definitely impressed me with how they go about it.
Cool. Do you see any future collaborations there, Sam?
I mean, yeah, I was talking to Anthony Edwards, Anthony Edwards' advisor just before this call, actually. So, you know, that's probably why it's topical, but we'll see.
That's some alpha, maybe.
I know, I want him, man. I'd love all of them. You know, I think FTX pushed us back a couple of years in mainstream adoption, but don't worry, we're going to get them all. You know,
we're coming back.
ZKJ holders, stick around. Noah and I will bring them back. We just need some time.
Bring him back, guys. Bring him back. We'd love to see it.
We need some time.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. That was a great chat. I always love hearing from you, Sam, and I've gotten the chance to speak with you a few times now, Noah. But it's so good to hear your backstory, man, and you know, you're obviously very accomplished as well. So it's super great to hear your story, and I'm sure that a lot of our audience, a lot of love on Discord, obviously, guys. Everybody loves Sam, so there's always going to be a lot of love there, but a lot of love for you too, Noah. And guys,
we'll get Noah. We're definitely going to make Noah part of the rotation. So thanks,
guys.
Thanks so much, Tony, for hosting, man, and Noah. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing at Polyhedra, and also, you know, jumping on here and letting the community get to know you a bit better, man. It means a lot to me and the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you both for having me. It was a really great chat. I'm looking forward to more.
Hell yeah, guys.
Awesome,
right
guys.
on. All right. Have a good Friday, guys.
Keep your eyes posted for next week as well, guys. We've got the ZKML Festival kicking off. A lot of great content. So get around it, get prepared. We've got a lot coming. And we'll see you next time. Have a great weekend.
Oh yeah. Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.
See you guys.